dissecting my 100-yard individual medley. So that is the swimming race that I used to race. I was classified as a breaststroker, meaning my specialty was breaststroke growing up. Growing up, I mean like in summer league. Later on, I set a record in sprint breaststroke, so 50-yard breaststroke and 1,000-yard freestyle. So I was also a distance swimmer, but in summer league, it was just 50s and then the 100 of all strokes. Once like one was old enough, before then it was 25s, and the 100-yard IM and 100-yard freestyle. So distance, even like 200s, we didn't do. Yeah. But I was a distance freestyler as well. But I was classified as a breaststroker, meaning I best at breaststroke, but I was an abnormal breaststroker in that I was actually good at all of the strokes. My next best stroke to the stroke that I was actually better than breaststroke at one point in sprint distances was backstroke. So this is going to be dissecting my 100-yard individual medley and how I swam it. And yeah, so okay, we're gonna start. So this is the race. It is 4 in a 25-yard pool. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lengths of the pool. Some people call that 4 laps of the pool. It's just 4 things. And each length, so the first length is butterfly. The second length is backstroke. The third length is breaststroke. And the fourth length is freestyle. So that's the order of an individual medley. This is not the order of how fast I am. So my specialty was breaststroke, and on a very rare occasion that I chose to actually swim that fast, backstroke. And so those were kind of my specialties, but we're going to take it past this and dissect how I swam it, and how, if I were to return to swimming or something like that, and I wanted to race a 100-yard individual medley, based on my sporting and experience in water polo and other aquatic sports, including open water swimming, because this is pool swimming, how that might actually influence my tactic, so to speak, for racing a 100-yard individual medley. So I'm going to break it down. So I've said the order of the strokes. Now I'm going to, what my fastest, when I raced it, so this is based on stuff I've actually done. My fastest stroke, about the time I was like, we didn't always race the 100-yard individual medley. It kind of fell off once we reached like this, in our youth swim team, when we were like the senior category, it kind of died off a bit, because there were fewer people on the team. And so like, if we weren't like in the scoring heat, we'd be swimming exhibitions, so there were less of us, so there's not as many exhibitions, so exhibitions become like 50 freestyle and something else, which I'm just kind of like, okay, so it wasn't as common. So I was about 13, 14 years old when this was more prevalent. So the 100-yard individual, so this is still a 100-yard individual medley, and answering the question how I swim it, how I swam it. My fastest stroke at approximately this point in my life, where this was like a race that I was pretty good at, or like maybe approached as a race I wanted to race. Like I still would race it after, but that doesn't mean I like wanted to race it and would put in my effort. So this isn't about me putting an effort on the race. My fastest stroke was backstroke. Yes, my backstroke was faster than my freestyle. My second fastest stroke was freestyle. My breaststroke, you know you're a good breaststroker if you know there's a certain, okay, if you can swim classic breaststroke faster than non-classic breaststroke, which is keeping hands and arms under the water, not bringing them out of the water, you're a breaststroker. Another way to know you're a breaststroker is if your breaststroke, so that was one, this is faster than your butterfly. And you train in both strokes. Like we trained in all strokes and swam all strokes and swam individual medley. Swam, raced, competed in. So this is how, so this is like, okay, My backstroke, I'm going to add the asterisk back here. These were my 2 strong strokes. So in an individual medley, it goes butterfly, which I was not slow at, but I also, like, so I didn't have a bad stroke. I just had strokes where, like, how to phrase it is, freestyle and butterfly, I was further behind the fastest people, but also not bad at the stroke. So I can hold my own in these strokes. So butterfly would be like the people who were butterflyers or freestylers and butterflyers, which is pretty common, actually very common, they'd get ahead. Backstroke, the butterflyers in my flavor for my growing up was butterflyers and backstrokers. There was a lot of overlap in that community. So if people were good at butterfly, they tended to be good at backstroke as well. So in backstroke, these people who got ahead on the butterfly, of me on the butterfly, I would hold with them, and depending on how much they pushed themselves on the butterfly, or I conserved energy because I knew I wasn't good at butterfly compared to these other people who was their stroke, I could actually push harder on my backstroke because I had more energy. And backstroke feels good for me. And there's no flip turn. So like as a breaststroker, that's very advantageous. Like I did open turn, so I would touch, and not a lot of swimmers then flip their feet around. I didn't do the fancy turn. I did the old school turn. It worked for me. It was faster for me, a whole lot faster. So backstroke, I would hold my own to gain like a hair on the people who were good at butterfly and backstroke. Breaststroke, I would just charge, like this is my thing, this is my groove. So yeah, I could beat the people who are good at butterfly backstroke or butterfly freestyle, like, but it wasn't like consistent. Like I wouldn't always win, and I don't even know, like, but like I'm comparing to like this pair specialists here. So this is my groove, the middle of the individual medley, and then up last would be freestyle, and I would hold it. I'm more of a distance person, so I actually excelled in individual medley more than I did in the 50 or 100 yard freestyle, because everybody would be tired or just smashed from the breaststroke, and I'd be like, I'm kind of a distance person, so like I don't have to sprint the freestyle, but I have a really good like distance stroke. So if I used my distance stroke here, I could actually not lose as much ground as I would in the 100 freestyle, because I just use my distance stroke, which is different for me than my sprinting stroke, at least in the past it was. So I wouldn't lose the race on the freestyle, even though it's proportionally I was much worse than some of these other people at freestyle. It's kind of, yeah, my distance freestyle kicks in an individual medley to actually bump my freestyle is better than it is in a sprint context. Unless, so that's what happened in the past. What would it look like with my experience in water polo? So in water polo, I learned that if we were to add a 5th stroke here, which is head high freestyle, so like 1.5, or yeah, is a head high. That's actually faster than my backstroke. This was actually really fast for me. So I guess if I wanted to increase my speed using the same kind of techniques as the past, I would swim head high freestyle, because for whatever reason, it's a lot easier for me to sprint head high freestyle than head down freestyle, which is actually allowable because freestyle is any stroke. So you can actually have your head out of the water. It's just most people are faster with their head down than their head up. I'm faster with my head up for sprinting. So that's one way this could actually be faster. I was disproportionately better at the 100-yard individual medley than my 100-yard freestyle, meaning my time for my 100-yard individual medley compared to my 100-yard freestyle was like 4 to 6 seconds slower than my 100-yard freestyle, which like the typical kind of slowdown was like 10 seconds. So it'd be like only 4 seconds off of a stroke where like the 100-yard freestyle one can do flip turns, which are a lot faster than open turns, and 4 different strokes. Like there was I wasn't the only person who was that way. There was like a handful of us, if I'm recalling correctly, who had this happen, and we're like, I guess that's just like one of the quirks of summer league, where people actually train on everything. Is like people watch it like the Olympic Games and stuff. These people are really good at freestyle, but they train on freestyle and like just freestyle, maybe one or two more strokes, so like maybe freestyle butterfly breaststroke. The backstroke is terrible. We weren't allowed to have that happen. Like, we had a higher standard, oddly enough, with summer league. And so the individual medleys would actually be comparable to the 100-yard freestyles. And that breadth of training showed in our times, because it wasn't a whole lot slower than the 100-yard freestyle. If someone overtrains in one stroke, it'll show up in the 100 time of that stroke. So like if someone's really good at freestyle and just trains at freestyle, their 100-yard individual medley time will be like much slower than 4 seconds slower in their 100-yard freestyle time, kind of thing. So that's how I swam it. And one thing I could incorporate if I were to go back to it, I don't see that happening, but that's how I dissecting my 100-yard individual medley from the past.